welcome to yet another episode of Women in Sport Africa with myself, Lonwabo Miso, and my guest for part 2 is Megan Faul. We've learned about her early life, and now we get to know the lady that went to China at the World Games representing South Africa and broke not only her records, but a South African record and an African record as well. Part 2 of Women in Sport Africa with Megan Faul starts now. And we have a sit down with our guest, Megan. Thank you so much for chatting to us. So the first line on your bio says, from the moment she could walk, she's been an athlete. And I love it so much because I feel like it embodies and tells a lot. But tell me about those early days of the early moments where you could walk, you realized you could walk, but already there was that element of athleticism in you.
So it's funny because my mom always jokes about it. I didn't even have a chance to crawl. I skipped the crawling and I went straight to walking because I didn't have time for that. And I was up and at it.
Well, thank goodness for that, because now we have a powerlifting record breaker in our country, and thanks to those early moments. But what kind of a child were you also looking at, Megan, in school? Were you also as sporty, and which sporting codes were you dabbling into?
So in primary school, I was part of athletics, which was long jump, your hurdles. I did swimming. My primary school didn't have all the fancy sports like the hockey and all of that.
Yes.
I only got to that at a later stage, but in primary school it was athletics, swimming.
And looking at the Victress Laudorium that you got in high school, tell us more about that. And I mean, being involved in athletics at a young age, the lessons start early. And what lessons are you taking away from those moments in high school?
So, you know, like, it's always the work that you put in. Like, training's going to be hard. Training isn't supposed to be easy. So that on race day, you bleed less.
And looking at, I mean, we've spoken about the lessons that come from that. And I'm sure, I mean, you've spoken about your mom, and I know that she's got quite the influence in your life. But also then you meet people in your lives, like coaches and teachers that have that sort of impacts and influence. Do you have any that you remember to this day when you think back in primary school or high school and you're like, actually, this teacher said ABC and it really shaped the person that I am today?
Yes, there was actually one teacher, she sadly passed away since. Her name was Miss Buerta, and she used to teach me at the Hill. That's where I attended school. And she would always go the extra mile for me, for other athletes as well, but like, I hold her very dear to my heart. So she would take me to UJ. There's an athletics track there, and I'd get in the extra running off season so that by the time athletics came, I was prepped and ready. Like in 2008, I think it was, 2008, 2009, I can't remember the snow day, but it was snowing that day, and I got up and I went to go train, and I also wasn't there alone, she was there. So because it was a snow day, running wasn't cancelled. I got up, I walked to school, she met me there, and we put in the work.
Sure. And that's the kind of, I mean, to be who you are today, it's those little moments that count and have made you get to where you are today, that level of discipline.
Yeah.
And you can't take it for granted, because I mean, in high school, there's absolutely no way. And I think I remember that day, that snow, because we don't have a lot in the country. So they do stand out, those days when it was snowing, but there's absolutely no way I'd be caught training. But that's what made the difference.
Yes, putting in the hard work, that's all it is.
Yeah. And then looking at your family life now, does your mom look back and I mean the surroundings in your family and think, we knew that one day Megan would be something, she was destined for something great?
So my mom actually calls me her mega star. And like from a young age, obviously I was exposed to the Olympics on TV when it was on SABC 1, 2 and 3. And my brother and I would watch it. And I remember saying to my brother that one day I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom and my brother and my gran, they've always just been there for me. And it's like never about, it's not always about winning, but about finishing, you know. So in grade 2, I did a hurdle race, and this sticks out for me clearly. So I was running the race and I was coming first, and I fell right towards the end.
Yeah.
And I got up and I finished the race. And I think that was more proud, it made my mom more proud than winning the race, is because I got up and I finished. I didn't quit. I just carried on going.
And I guess that's the lesson that you've taken throughout your careers, because you've also swapped sporting codes from triathlon to powerlifting, and of course rugby, which we'll speak about. But I'm sure that is quite the common denominator, because sport is the same, even though the sporting codes are different. But the discipline and the ability to come back up is what counts for a lot.
No, 100%. You know, it's the passion, and it's the always wanting to move and just learn. Like, I can still learn about sports that I've been doing for years.
Yeah.
You know, you don't stop learning, and that's why I love sports.
And that's the difference that it has made. Megan, you also then went into the 5150 series. Tell us more about that and what it means and what you were doing there.
So at that stage, like, look, I've done all the sports there possibly is, and I wanted to do something longer, you know. So I remember going on Facebook Marketplace, and I bought a cheap bike. My brother and I went to go fetch it. And I got on this bike and I was like, right, I'm going to do triathlons. And my brother's like, don't be silly. So I got in the pool, I started training, and it was hard. Like, you know, big ups to the people who do the full Ironman. And it's hard, but all of that taught me, you know, you learn different lessons from all of these sports. And that one, you know, like, you need to finish the swim. You can't worry about the running. You first need to finish here before you can move on.
Yes.
And it almost teaches you patience. Like, you just want to get on the run and finish, but you need to finish this first before we can move forward. So with every sport, I take a different lesson, and I think that's why I am here today.
And that's why you're here today. Our guest is Megan Faul. Started with movements early on in her age, to the triathlon and endurance sport, and to who she is today. When we come back, we continue speaking about her love for sports in general and the work that she's done to lead her to the Megan we know today. After the break, we're coming back here on Women in Sport Africa. It's Women in Sport Africa, and I'm still joined by my guest, Megan Faul, who is now telling us about the time that she made her debut at the Gauteng Champs. I've actually given up, Megan, asking you for the timelines, because I just noticed that in just a few months, now you're competing powerlifting. Tell me about the Gauteng Champs, your first time in that competition.
So, with all sports, there comes technique and, you know, the correct way to do things so that you can, like, get the most out of that movement, okay? So being like a rookie, like, my squat wasn't what it is today.
Yes.
So they said, you're going to do Gauteng Champs. And I was like, oh, okay. So I used the numbers that I had, you know, like my deadlift from CrossFit. You know, it was all movements that I had done before, but I didn't specialize in. So I said, okay. So I had to borrow a belt and I had to borrow knee sleeves, because now you need all of these things
for
when
competing.
You do a competition.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I did what I knew. So powerlifting is you have to listen.
Okay.
You know, listening is a skill.
Sure.
Because there's a judge in front of you and they tell you squat. So if you squat before the time, then it's a no lift. Or if you rack the bar before the time, it's a no lift. So you have to be attentive. You know what? And that was the scarier part than, you know, lifting the weights, because lifting the weights is the easy thing. If you're not listening to what they're telling you to do, then there's no point.
Sure.
So I just watched all the other ladies going before me when they did this, when they did that, and I didn't know anybody there. So I was like the underdog. Nobody knew me. Everyone was like, who's this lady? And I won, you know, and I was like, okay, so let's do this. And then I had to prep for nationals, which was probably 2 months after that. And then I joined a club and they started helping me with technique.
So, I'm laughing because you had already won and now you're the Gauteng champ and you're winning as you're finding your feet.
Yes, yes. You know, this is what I do. I like to be in the hot water. So then I found a club and I now needed to train for nationals. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So they gave me like numbers that I was going to work off of, and I trained and I put in all my, like I do, I put in all my time and my effort into that. And I went to nationals as the underdog because the previous winner was set to win. And I won. And I was like, okay, now what? Now I had an invitation to go to Lithuania. And
to represent the country.
And that's when I first got my Protea colors.
Sure.
And that was in 2 months' time. And I was like, okay, let's just do this and ride the wave. And I went to Lithuania and I competed there, and it's a pity because, you know, you're in such a beautiful country, but everything for me on platform didn't work. Nothing went as I practiced. You know, I went to the back and I cried and I was like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here. This isn't for me, you know. But it's okay to not be good at everything, you know. It's okay to just have fun. But I wasn't even having fun, you know. I had lost everything in the build up to that. And I came back from Lithuania. So I finished 7th in the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Still very good still in the context of everything.
No. Look, I'm not taking that away from myself. But it didn't leave a nice taste, you know?
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard doing that competition. But I didn't give up because I knew that I had Africa champs. So I had a few months then to recover and to find my feet and, you know, dial in again. And I went to Africa champs with a different mindset, a stronger mindset, and I won overall. You know, so I had found my feet again, I was back, and I was ready. So I knew that I had to win African champs if I wanted to get a chance to go to World Games, you know. And I got my wild card spot to go to the World Games.
As an African champion.
As an African champion, you know. But it, again, wasn't easy because I was then in an unhappy place with my training. And I just wasn't a happy athlete, you know. But this time I didn't leave the sport like with when I did triathlons.
Okay.
I stuck it out because I knew that there was an end goal here. When I started with in that garage, those two friends of mine said to me, "You're going to go to World Games." And I was like, I don't know, you know. And I had been chipping away at this, and that was my end goal. So I didn't want to walk away from powerlifting yet. So I joined a new club. I went to Barbell Bullies.
Yeah.
And Henk and Laura, they had patience with me, and they managed to build me up again and help me find my confidence. Because powerlifting is a sport that if your mind isn't there, don't even bother.
What do you think was getting your mind at that state of unhappiness?
I feel like maybe I just wasn't in the right training space, you know, like I wasn't happy in that training space. So I changed environments, and I changed for me. I didn't change for anybody else. I changed for me to find my feet again, you know, and I found my passion and I found my love again. So then I only had 5 months to train for China, because now I'd left it for a few months to like focus on me, you know, to rebuild myself. And I started at Barbell Bullies in February, and I knew that I had 5 months. 5 months to get back into action.
Yeah.
And I went 3 times a week because that was the training program that I was on. And I found that love again, and I found that passion and that hunger. And when I went to China, I couldn't have asked for a better day on platform. It was the most amazing. All my work that I had put in showed on platform that day, you know, and I will forever carry that with me. So most people don't know what World Games is. World Games is the Olympics, but it's for all the sports that aren't at the Olympics yet.
Sure.
Okay, so there's like a little bubble of sports waiting for their call up
to get into the Olympics. Sure.
So at the moment, this is the highest stage in powerlifting that you can go, is the World Games, and all powerlifters dream of going there. And I was the first raw powerlifter, South African raw powerlifter, to go in the female division.
Sure. When we come back after the break, Megan takes us through that journey of the World Games in China and all the moments that came to a point when she got here back in South Africa after that tournament. Her world was completely different. So after the break, you want to stay tuned, as well as getting some pearls of wisdom from this powerlifter, the story of resilience and hunger and passion for a sport that is not necessarily linked to females, but here she is dominating the space ever so beautifully. After the break, you want to catch more with Megan. And welcome back to Women in Sport Africa, and we're just milking those final moments we have with Megan. So Megan, here you are in China representing South Africa at the World Games. Have you set any specific goals as you're going there? And take me to those moments where you're breaking the South African record, the African record.
So yes, I did set goals, you know. It's always good to set goals, but just remember that they need to be realistic, okay? Don't lose sight of that. So I'd set goals that were, I knew that I'd be able to, like I didn't overshoot, okay? So I went out and I've always failed my third squat on platform. This was the first time that I aced that squat. You know, my technique was perfect. So it was a PB for me. It wasn't a record, but it was a PB for me because it was the heaviest I had been, and it was the first time getting a third lift on my squats.
Sure, so that's personal best done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bench press, that's my favorite movement. So the record that I was breaking was my records as well, you know. So I knew that my opening was something comfortable, and then the second one I broke that record, and then the third one I broke my record, you know, and then it was playtime for me. Once I had got the squats done, I knew that now we're going to have fun. And on the deadlifts as well, I knew that the weight that I was going to lift was my personal best.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about me competing against anybody else there. It was me against me.
Sure.
You know, and I am my biggest competitor. So that's why that day for me was magical, because everything, and it doesn't happen often, but everything just worked.
And then where do you place then in the overall competition?
So there I placed 8th in the world against those athletes. But I was against, so what they did was they combined the 84 division and the 84 plus division, you know, so I was against girls who I wouldn't normally compete against, but it was all fair because it was relative to your body weight.
Yeah.
So anything that day, would have been magical.
success.
Just being there for me was amazing.
So fast forward to then you coming back to the country. Obviously the internet and social media has made the world a lot smaller. So we would have known that this has happened to South African, when we start saying no DNA, just RSA.
Yeah.
When you come back, what's the reception like, and how did then things change for you from then onwards?
I love where I work, and I've been there for 10 years. And I came back to work, and I heard, I was talking to the guys as I got out my car, and I heard vuvuzelas, and I was like, oh, are we striking? It's bad. That's what we automatically think.
Yep, it's being South African.
And I knew that wage negotiations were going on, and I heard vuvuzelas, and I was like, we're striking. What are we going? And I said to the guys, are we striking? What did I miss? Next thing I see flags and my whole warehouse turning the corner. And I just stood there and I just got tears, and I knew that I was family with them, I love everybody that I work with, everybody in the warehouse, and everybody just left their workstations, and it was like a mini parade for Megan. Something that I could have never imagined. I didn't even know they could do that, and them walking down with vuvuzelas and everyone hugging me and just welcoming me. I made everybody so proud back at home, and I can't even put into words how amazing that feels.
I want to link that back to what you said to me off air, that you come from a family that didn't have much.
No.
And here you are, fast forward to many moments later, and you've made yourself this big deal, where you have the country celebrating you and just seeing your colleagues celebrating you. And when you look back to where you come from, how did that feel, just reconnecting how far you've come?
It's something special. And I just want to say that, you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need the best shoes or anything. You know what you need? You need passion and you need drive. And that's what I had as a little girl. We didn't have money. I used to wear secondhand shoes. I used to wear, sometimes when it was athletics, I didn't have shoes and everybody had these fancy Sparks. But I would still win, I would always get the hand-me-downs, or the school would help me and sponsor me because we didn't have money back home. And I just want to let the younger girls out there know that even if you don't have, what you have here is going to get you far. So don't worry about all of those things, the fancy things. Even if your shoes have holes in them, you run. You run as fast as your heart can run. And don't ever give up, because that's what got me where I am today.
And you have a special young man in your life, your son. What lessons would you like for him to take when he looks at mommy's life? So
he's always on the sideline watching me, and he's like a little sponge, and I actually call him my little manager, because he'll always be on the sideline saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Yeah. I support him and he supports me, and we know that we've got each other. So I want him to always just have fun, and I tell him that. If it's a bad soccer game, but did you have fun, boy? Yes. Then that's all that matters. As long as you're having fun, let's go with it.
Sure. We're going to leave it on that note. Megan, thank you so much for an incredible experience. Just learning about your life has taught me a lot, and I certainly hope at home you too have learned a lot. A story of resilience, a story of passion that has taken Megan from the south of Johannesburg to the world in China, representing South Africa in a sport that we hope one day, because of Megan, we'll see many more South African girls take the world by storm in powerlifting. And that's where we wrap up our episode, Women in Sport Africa. Another one done and dusted. Next week when we come back, we'll definitely have another groundbreaking female that has taken their world by storm.